Hello everyone, I'm Tony Southcott.
And I'm Komette, and welcome to another review done by Human Echoes with Tony and I. So today we're talking about a movie that's a little bit infamous. We weren't sure where to get information, what it was.
The 1979/2019-2018 movie Antrum.
And I gotta say, this was a very interesting movie. It starts off with a documentary on it, and then it dives into the actual movie. What did you think of that?
I think that this movie would have been better served to have two sections, more like two movies separate from each other. I think if you would have presented the 1979 stuff right off the bat and just gone with it, I think that it would made for some really compelling content. I feel like the documentary is trying to make a hook for this is how scary it is, this is how scary it is. And it works really well for the trailer. But I think I would have rather just started with the movie and kind of wandered into it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the movie on its own would have been perfectly fine without the, like Tony said, the hook of it being it's a movie that kills you. And I'm not trying to spoil anything, but that's kind of well known for the Antrum mythology of this movie.
It's called Antrum, the Deadliest Movie Ever Made. You can get it on Prime and various other streaming platforms right now for a VOD release. And the documentary parts are more about the most dangerous movie ever made, whereas the rest of it is kind of just straight up the movie.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, I am doing my evaluation on just the movie itself, not the documentary portion of the movie. I liked this movie.
It was dark in a way that is different. Mm-hmm. It very much had the feel in a lot of ways of the 70s vibe and everything, in that it was patient, it didn't show you everything. There's not a lot of effects that look bad or anything. It's a movie that knows whenever it doesn't have something perfect, that it just needs to give you a little flash and move on. Also, this movie is filled with more sigils and demonic things than I've ever seen layered onto a film. Just little flashes here, little cuts to a different sequence there. It does a lot of that to just kind of jar you and unsettle you.
And for somebody who literally knows nothing about demonology or demons in general, like Tony at least knew the names of some of them, I wasn't lost on the fact that I didn't know anything about it. And I think that's totally fine for somebody who has little information about demonology. I was really scared to watch this movie because when Tony was like, oh yeah, it's a 70s film that was released and killed a bunch of people and this and that. And I was like, we have to watch another 1970s film. And I was really scared because we just got finished watching Black Christmas, which for all it's done for cinema, it's really slow. It's not that great of a movie. And I was terrified that this was going to be like that.
Yeah, that's part of the problem with our original versus remake sometimes, is that you can actually see why they wanted a remake for some things, even if the remake didn't do very well.
Right.
But this movie had slow pacing, but it was patient pacing. It wasn't dragging pacing. It was more like, we're going to let you feel the world a little bit. We're going to let this grow on its own and let the unease that we've set you up with actually make this compelling, fascinating, and creepy. I feel like it did a better job of that than a lot of movies I've seen recently, and this had to have been on a shoestring budget.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The pacing was incredible. Although it was slow, I wouldn't call it dragging. I didn't get bored.
Yeah,
I wasn't wanting them to be like, okay, come on, you know what you're gonna do, just do it. There was nothing like that, and I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. And we're going to get into certain parts of the movie. We're going to try to avoid as many spoilers as possible. If you haven't been sold by what we've said so far, or you want to see it without any sort of spoilers, go into this thing blind, dive right in, have fun with it. Mm-hmm. Because we are going to recommend this movie, flat out. But I want to be able to talk about how, some of the plot points where they're digging to different levels of hell and seeing what happens, but it's still on an earth plane. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, if you're curious at all about this movie and you don't want anything spoiled, come back to this afterwards and tell us what you thought. But we're going to get into that portion now.
Perfect. And we also have a rubric that we're going to be following on this, so maybe we should go into the rubric and then talk about those aspects that you're wanting to?
Yeah, let's go into the rubric now.
Okay, so the first note of our grading will be direction. Now, direction it's kind of a wide umbrella. That means the score, it means how the director handled everything, it means a bunch of other stuff. So what did you give it for directions?
I gave this one a 1, even though it should be a 2. If it was separate from the documentary, it would easily be a 2. Mm-hmm.
See, I gave it a 2. Let me just double check this. I gave it a 2 because I wasn't grading it on the documentary. I'm just grading the Antrum movie, which maybe should be a little unfair because it is all together. They showed it all together in the theaters. They showed it all together when you streamed. It is one entity, but I really liked the direction of it. The guy did an amazing job with the pacing and how he made the actors do what he wanted and all the creepy background stuff and whatnot. I really enjoyed the direction on this.
And that's going to go into one of our next things. Like, we're going to get to that kind of the feel in a minute. But the next thing is with the acting, which this movie didn't have a lot of actors. It had like 2 primary actors, then 2 other characters that become important later in the movie. But the brother and sister did so well in this movie. And I know that the child is like maybe 12, like at max,
He's
something
young.
like that. And he did fantastic.
He did
and
great.
so did the sister. They were awesome for this movie. It was very emotive. It was very like they were just in tune with what was going on, and it was very fun. And also like very like oddly, just it was so uneasy with the way they were reacting some of these things. And it felt real, and it felt good, and it felt like what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and I agree with that. She did an incredible job, the sister, and the little brother did an awesome job with his creepy stares. And what I like about this is that I feel like they were reacting instead of actually acting, and that's one of the key components to doing something like this.
Especially in horror, like the reactions are so much more like it's key, because if you don't feel like the actors are a little bit afraid, a lot of times the scares fall flat.
Yeah, and
the next thing we're covering is atmosphere, which also covers like the creep factor. It covers basically the entire feel of a movie, and that like I wish I could give a 3 to this movie because it was done so well for such a small budget. And the thing is, I think there's going to be people who dislike that because it's not like scary CGI hellscapes and things like that, because it's basically done in just like a normal forest. But the way the levels of hell like kind of filter forward, it still works and it's still interesting. And like there are moments that there are not a lot of scares in this movie, but there are moments where you can definitely get creeped out, especially because they're going to leave things on the screen for long enough that you're just waiting for something to happen. And there are no cheap shots in this movie. It's just atmosphere. It's just creepiness. It's just patience.
Imagine the first half of Insidious, the first one, but the entire movie is like that. Really well atmosphere. It is creepy. I will call this movie creepy. In the documentary beforehand, they talked about how people were feeling so uneasy and whatnot. And there is that level of uneasiness while watching this, even during some of the still frames and a lot of the random kind of shots that they put in the middle of it. Not so much so that I would feel sick or leave a theater or anything like that, but it definitely was creepy, and it was very intentional with what they were doing. And I appreciate that a movie can kind of scare us without using any sort of jump scares or any sort of fast pacing, being chased really, or anything like that.
Like there are times where it steps up the speed, where someone's terrified and running a little bit, but it's not about the pursuit, it's about the entire world.
Yeah. Perfect.
And one of the things that they did to set this atmosphere is they did the weird, like, Hertz cancellation where you've got, like, an oscillating sound wave going and then use a slightly different oscillating sound wave, so it actually cancels out the way the two sound together. It's how noise-canceling headphones work. But because it was slightly different on the bottom part of the wave, it would make these, like, these clicks and these warbles and these things that are meant to make you feel uneasy. It works more on some people where they'll actually get like a stomach ache, where they'll feel confused or disoriented. But overall, it added to like the something is wrong here feeling. And that's one of the things that I enjoyed most about it.
So I gave Atmosphere a 2 out of 2.
I gave it 2 out of 2 as well.
Second to last attribute that we're going to be grading on is rewatchability. Is this a movie that you're going to be able to watch again in the course of your lifetime, or again in the course of a year, a month, a week? Are you going to want to rewatch it?
I think that there is some rewatch value here. It's not something that I'm going to be like, well, every few months I need to put this back on and dive back into it. I'm definitely going to rewatch it at some point. I gave it a 1 because it's not going to be the full repeat, but it's something that I'm probably going to show to other people a lot.
I agree. I give it a 1 also because I'm not going to watch it again to try to see all the hidden values in it, but it is something that I'm going to show my friends, be like, hey, you guys want to watch a creepy movie? Let's watch this.
Yeah, and I might end up making that video that just shows the creepy parts for people who want to interpret the things that are so fast that you don't really get to see it. It seems like most of it is the symbol of Azathoth, but...
There's some writing
there's
some weird bathroom scene.
Yeah,
shower scene.
There's some things that we're unclear of as far as like the symbolism behind it, and that's why there is some rewatch value here. Mm-hmm. So it'll be fun to see what people come up for this now that it's actually in a wide release.
Perfect. The last one that we're going to be grading on is very simple. Did we like it or did we not like it? Based out of a 2-point system. Tony, what did you think?
I gave it a 2. Mm-hmm. I really like this. Like I know that there's like mythology behind it, and they're trying to build that up. And it's something where I just enjoyed the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I really did. There are things that I could have said, like, maybe we should change about this, but there was nothing that felt offensive or bad or anything like that. If you're really against the whole demonology thing, I'm sure you'll find plenty of offense with it.
Yes.
But it doesn't bother me.
I agree. So I gave it a 2 because I actually really liked this movie. I was really concerned when beginning it because it seemed cheesy and hokey, especially with the documentary part of it. And the first couple scenes, I was like, oh, I was really scared that it was going to be like Black Christmas where it dragged on, but I was very pleasantly surprised. I got hooked into the universe. I got hooked into the acting and the story and what was going to happen next and what was real and what isn't real. And that's even the ending of it, is that you don't really know exactly what happened. And I can always appreciate when a movie does that for me, but in a way that I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, like there's some ambiguity, but it's not like awful ambiguity where they didn't have an ending. It's that like they had a few things ready for interpretation. And I think that whenever you're looking at like even the idea of black magic, like the Aleister Crowley type symbology, like sigils are a very important thing for his type of magic. And this movie actually follows a lot of that, like a lot of the old school style, like ideas of magicians, of runes, of sigils. And to have it like represented like this was actually really cool. So if you know anything about like, what is it? The Last King of Solomon or any of these other books that have been like kind of notorious throughout the years for magicians, I think you'll enjoy a lot of this movie. Like you can tell that they were heavily influenced there. Also,
let us know if you do know anything about that, anything that we've missed or whatnot in the comments below. We're very interested in this, but honestly, I wouldn't even know where to start to do research on it.
We're like I said, there might be a follow-up to this video where I dig deeper into it, but this is just the review. My total number out of this was a straight up 8 out of 10, and that's a pretty high recommend for me.
I got an 8 out of 10 also, according to our rubric, and that I think is really, really high in our book. We have to give it kudos. Even with the gimmick and everything that it does to try to hook people in, I don't think it took that much away from this movie, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think you guys will too. Once again, it is on video on demand. It's worth the $4. Just go do it. Support smaller cinema, smaller horror, all that. It's really worth your time.
Yeah. And if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and like this video also. Comment down below. Let's start a discussion about this. I'm ready to talk to each and every one of you who are here. And if you really, really like our content, join our Discord or check out our Patreon at patreon.com/humanechoes for exclusive content, for early content, and exclusive art.
Yep. You guys have an awesome week. We will be back with more videos next week.
Yeah. Bye.